Welcome back to Action Drama Recaps. Today I'll be sharing a story with you. The movie opens up with this unemployed puppeteer, Craig, performing an act in his workshop which somehow depicts his frustration in real life. There was a lot of cheering and applauding, but it turns out it's from his imagination. And then his wife, Lot, calls him to bed. In the morning, Lot, who has a lot of pets, suggests that maybe he should get a job that's not puppeteering, which Craig dismisses. When he heads to the street to play one of his acts, a young girl watches, but when he ends up doing something explicit, the mother gets mad and punches Craig. The incident helps push him to find an actual job. Craig ends up applying as a filer at Lester Corps in the Merton Flemmer building in New York, located on the 71st and a half floor, where the ceiling is too low. He's interviewed by the boss, Dr. Lester, who he thinks is kinda weird. He's hired on the spot, and at the orientation he learns about why the ceiling is so low, and also meets Maxine, whom he is immediately interested in. Back at home, Lot's asking him about having kids, but Craig dismisses that topic and says that they have to wait to see if the job works out. The next day at work, Craig begins to pursue Maxine, but she's not into him. Dr. Lester has become open with Craig and invites him and his wife over for dinner, which he cannot decline. Craig continues to pursue Maxine at the office, but she still rejects him. While he's filing paperwork, he drops a folder behind the filing cabinets and accidentally discovers a hidden portal when he goes to check it out. Curious, he decides to go inside and finds himself in the mind of actor John Malkovich. He sees and feels everything through John Malkovich. After 15 minutes, he gets ejected from his body and lands on the side of the road on the New Jersey Turnpike. He heads back to the office and tells Maxine about his discovery, but Maxine is kind of skeptical about it at first. But then he gets an idea, calling up Craig with a business plan, letting people in this portal for $200 a person. Craig explains his new business with Maxine to Lot. She decides she has to try the portal, so Craig lets her. As Lot is inside John's body, she realizes her transsexual being, and she becomes so obsessed with the experience that when she gets ejected, she wants to go back in. But Craig stops her, because they'll be late for dinner with Dr. Lester. While having dinner at Lester's house, Lot's looking for the bathroom, and accidentally finds a room that's dedicated to John Malkovich. She tells Craig about it, thinking that the doctor might also know about the portal, but Craig doesn't think so. So the next day at the office, Lot pays a visit and finally meets Maxine. She also tells both Craig and Maxine that she wants to go back in this portal again. While Maxine is placing their ad on the phone, Lot reveals her transsexuality and wants to have gender reassignment surgery, but Craig gets mad and dismisses it, telling her that it's just a phase, and he also denies her entry to the portal. But Maxine tells Craig to just let her, and even addresses Lot as him, acknowledging his transsexuality. Maxine gets Malkovich's number and calls him, inviting him to dinner while Lot's inside John's body. Intrigued about who the woman is, Lot tells John in his head to meet the woman, and it pushes John to decide to meet her. Lot goes back to John's mind at the time of the dinner date and discovers the woman is Maxine. She becomes smitten with Maxine, suggesting Craig should invite her to their house for dinner. After dinner, while Maxine's rolling a joint and talking to him, both Craig and Lot are getting more and more compelled to kiss her, and so they do at the same time. Maxine pushes them both away and tells Craig that she doesn't like him straight away. But then she tells Lot she likes her, but only when she's inside Malkovich. So after that, Lot secretly calls Maxine, telling her they should meet again through John Malkovich after that portal business. Maxine agrees and sets up a date with Malkovich at his home. The two end up holding those hands while Lot is in John's mind. Craig finds out about what happened because Lot admits it to him. Lot ends up admitting to Craig what happened. He also confronts Maxine, who describes to him her incredible experience with Lot and John Malkovich and how much she loves it. Craig forces Lot to call Maxine at gunpoint, instructing her to set another date with Max. But he ends up locking her away in her chimpanzee Elijah's cage and goes into Malkovich instead, without Maxine knowing that it's him. While he's controlling John, he ends up holding hands with Maxine and discovers he can control John Malkovich with his puppeteering skills. Malkovich notices how someone's controlling his actions and is immediately alarmed, confused and disturbed. He tells his friend Charlie Sheen about it and decides that he must know what's happening. He ends up following Maxine to the office where he discovers the portal. Craig explains how it works, so he demands to go inside. Craig's hesitant to let him in, but Maxine tells him to let John do it. But unlike other people who go inside and get to be him for 15 minutes, John seems to have entered a different dimension as everyone looks at him and can only say one word: Malkovich. John's so scared of his experience that when he's ejected, he immediately goes to Craig, who's waiting for him at the turnpike, to shut down the portal. Craig refuses, so John threatens to see him in court. Craig goes home and talks to Lot. Lot tries to talk him out as well into freeing her, but instead Craig calls Maxine and forces Lot to set up another date with her through John Malkovich. Then he leaves and keeps his wife locked in a cage. Luckily, Elijah unties her hands and helps her free. She immediately calls Maxine and tells her that it was Craig who was inside John and not her. But sadly, Maxine loved it when Craig was able to control John and decides to still see John even though it's Craig inside him. Lot's left all heartbroken and decides to go see the doctor. As she's at the doctor's house, she tells him about the obsession with John Malkovich and wanting to be John. Surprisingly, the doctor reveals to her that he's in fact Captain Merton, and he had discovered that portal, which allowed him and his friends to live forever by jumping from one body to another. As it turns out, the host body will become ripe as they turn 44 years old. The doctor and his friends must be in the host body before midnight on his 44th birthday, so they can inhabit the body. But if they get in after midnight on his 44th, they'll be trapped in the next generation's newborn host, helpless inside the new host's mind. The doctor offers Lot a place in John's head and introduces her to his friends who will also go in with him. Feeling guilty about how nice Dr. Lester is to her, she tells him about what Craig did to the portal. Meanwhile, Maxine and Craig come up with another plan. She tells him to stay in John forever. Craig agrees and also wants to make John a puppeteer and no longer be just an actor. Craig ends up living inside John Malkovich for the next 8 months. He marries Maxine and becomes a successful, famous puppeteer through John. It turns out that Maxine also ends up pregnant with John Malkovich's baby. But as she becomes pregnant, she also becomes more and more detached from Craig. On Malkovich's 44th birthday, the doctor and Lot kidnap Maxine. They call Craig to demand that he leave Malkovich's body, threatening to Maxine. But he hangs up. In desperation, Lot attempts to shoot Maxine, who escapes into the portal. Lot chases her through Malkovich's subconscious before they are both ejected. She confronts Maxine about breaking her heart, and Maxine tells her that it's her own way of loving her. She also confessed that she kept her unborn child because it was conceived while Lot was in Malkovich, that she knew it was Lot's baby too. So hearing this, Lot forgives her, and the two women announce their love for each other. Meanwhile, Craig, believing Maxine is still in danger, calls the doctor and tells him that he's decided to leave Malkovich. And as he does, the doctor and his friends enter the portal and start their new life as John Malkovich. But sadly for him, when he gets ejected, he finds Lot and Maxine together, and they leave him alone on the turnpike. Heartbroken, Craig swears to re-enter the portal to take back Malkovich's mind and be with Maxine again. The scene then switches to 7 years later. Now an elderly Malkovich, which is inhabited by Dr. Lester and his friends, tells Charlie Sheen about their plan to extend their lives via the portal. The host now is John Malkovich's and Maxine's child, Emily, who's being raised by both Maxine and Lot. The movie ends, revealing Craig, who entered the portal too late, being permanently trapped inside Emily and being forced to watch Lot and Maxine in love and living happily together. Always a pleasure having you guys around. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you had a good time today, and get ready for the next one.